Councillor Linfield.
Yes, good evening, Leader. I've got effectively 3 questions, which I hope you will bear with. First of all, I would like to give you a little bit of background about the Canterbury BID, because nobody here on the executive actually was at the Canterbury Area Member Panel when Bob Jones gave a result of some of the recent statistics and did a breakdown. Peter was. You couldn't stay. Right. One of the things that came out, which I found very interesting, is that Canterbury is unique in that it has a higher percentage of small traders than any other BID in the south. I think we know that in Canterbury because we can see the small traders and I think we appreciate them. But if you take that as read, I think going from there you will see why perhaps there are quite a lot of teething problems with it. One of the things that would help the small traders, without a doubt, is to sort out their financial problems with the levy. Looked into it in a lot of ways, talking to people this week. It would seem that if one were to do an instalment system, it would actually cost an extra £12,500. It would take the bid up to 4.5% of cost, which is a bad thing, because they're only supposed to be at 3%. So that doesn't look to be a solution unless the council is prepared to underwrite the 12,500. Now let me come to my questions. In today's Gazette, one thing I've learnt 8 years sitting here, that you can't always believe everything you read in the Gazette. And you would see on the front page it says 50 traders face court showdown. My first question is, are we actually planning or have we issued 50 summonses? The reason I'm asking is because I'm told, now I'm hoping I'm going to hear some no's here, I am told that if we have done, the cost to the council on an average would be about 50 quid a summons. We'd be looking at £2,500. Sorry, can I continue? We would be looking at about £2,500 gone down the Swanee. So are we intending to? That is my second question. Now my third question is actually to offer a solution which I would like the executive to consider in all seriousness, please. There are people in Canterbury who are having problems paying this levy. There are maybe half a dozen or 10 people who've got financial problems with this. I would like to ask this executive if you would consider that the council enters into negotiations with these traders. Some of these traders they are already giving support to in the way of business advice, business guidance. I would like to ask that they enter into negotiations and that the council, on a 1 year only, pays the bid and the traders pay the council back. Now, you said a few minutes ago, Leader, you'd like to know where the money goes and that we get it back. Well, this is absolutely that in one movement. The maximum, if you're looking at, say, 10 traders, 200 quid each is 2,000. Let's give them a big safety net. Let's go up to 5,000. Now, I do know from looking back through the resolutions that this isn't actually a... there is a precedent because on the 14th of November, the executive actually resolved that the funding of the bid ballot up to £10,000 be allocated with executive contingency in consultation with the leader. So this has been done before. We've supported the bid before. This would be supporting the bid, it would be resolving a problem, and it would be a win-win because we get the money back. So are we issuing 50 summons? Will the council be paying for them, or do I just not believe what is in the Gazette at all? And thirdly, will you please consider this very serious suggestion?
Let me go back to the start and see if I can remember all of the things you've talked about. I first saw a very effective bid 7 or 8 years ago, or even more, 9 years ago in Winchester, and the result was brilliant. And I would think Winchester and Canterbury in many ways are very similar. I'd be surprised if they weren't very similar also in the number of small traders. Not that that's an issue, but that is it. You mentioned teething problems. The median value of this bid per year, the median what people pay is £292. That's it, median. We have, at the moment, most of the traders and retailers within the city have come forward with their cash. My own record, and I would ask the Chief Executive just to confirm this, my own understanding is that there are in fact 8 traders for whom there is a problem. 4 of those, it's because they wish to, as you have suggested, they wish to be able to pay in instalments, which is not the way it can be done. The other 4 are the 4 that are going to court or have been issued with summons on Monday or Tuesday. No, this is not at the expense of Canterbury City Council. The bid process means that we are in fact, as you have probably worked out, we are quite a contributor to the bid process. We do not run the bid, it is run by the retailers and the traders. That was the whole idea. It's independent of the council. So for us to step in with making money available is simply not on. It's just not the way it's done. We're not in that position. And it's so few. It's an overwhelming number of businesses. And I might add there are, I think it's 6 or 7 businesses outside the city that are voluntarily giving money. £25,500 is coming from them. So what you're asking is you have to have a full understanding of this. And I think with regard to negotiations with traders, if it's part of what goes on normally, of course we can perhaps advise them. But we're talking, the sorts of people who are arguing about this and coming down to it are the small traders indeed, and I understand their financial positions. But really, this amount of money and the benefits that are coming from it, clean streets, ambassadors in the street, 3 of them, cleaning up and tidying outside here. We've started pressure cleaning on the streets, getting up chewing gum. There's much more to come. That money is going to make a huge difference to this city. So my view is, I'm sorry, Councillor, I will not interfere with giving any money at this stage. It's got to be resolved by those whose responsibility it is. Does anyone else wish to make any comments on that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just to add a little bit. Yeah, just to repeat your point, I mean, the process of the bid has got absolutely nothing to do with us. Leader and I spent quite a lot of time during the run into the ballot explaining to businesses that it had nothing to do with us, just in case anybody thought that when money was raised it would benefit the City Council. And there were many sceptical people that thought that this was a behind-the-scenes way of us increasing our income from businesses. So we've kept completely clear of it. We voted in the ballot in the way that the Executive agreed, because we are a freeholder of a number of sites, like the Marlow Theatre, for example. I understand, however, because I've been checking, obviously, that of the 50 traders, a large number of those are nationals who almost by definition don't pay until you send them the reminder letter. What's about to happen, I understand, is that there's a reminder letter going out saying if you don't pay within a certain amount of time, we will issue a summons. That's going to be issued by East Kent Services, not by us. And East Kent Services are doing this on behalf of the bid board, and the bid board decides what to do, not us. They tell us because we are a member of the bid board, but they don't ask our permission. They have no need to do that under any circumstances. And basically, we've been trying to keep out of this, to be honest, because it's not our business. And the more we interfere, the more confusing it gets for everybody. I'm told that as you say, Councillor Lindenfeld, the current cost to the bid of collecting the levy is £12,500, and if it was collected monthly, it would be £25,000. That puts them over the correct level, as you know, absolutely you said. But when you think about it, if the median is £297 a year, that means half of the businesses in the city are paying less than £297 a year. That's less than £6 a week. I'd find it rather difficult to believe a business would go out of business for £6 a week, and it could well be less for a number of the small businesses. And actually it costs £25 to collect on a monthly basis. So if you actually were to collect on a monthly basis, it's going to actually cost the bid more than they'd actually be receiving. So there is a point at which there's just no point. I also understand that we are the only bid that's even thinking about, ours is the only bid thinking about monthly collections. Every other bid in the country doesn't do it that way, and they all collect. And we have already collected 93% of the levy anyway. So there's all sorts of figures to suggest that, yes, I'm sure there are one or two problems, and we are actively working with those businesses to help them in terms of their profitability, but not really 50 businesses, to be frank, in danger of being summoned. I mean, I am sure a large number of them will just pay up because they've had a reminder letter. In the end, of course, if members wanted to contribute to this, it's not impossible for us to do it. We'd have good reason to do it, but I mean, you've given one or two reasons why that may be the case. But my personal advice has always been this is a matter for the bid board, and as soon as we start interfering, the more it looks as if it's our bid, and it isn't our bid; it's their bid.
Can I just give you just to say, I think one of the things here is that the people who are maybe hurting, but certainly complaining about this, they've got to look at the benefits to the whole city and the attractions and the additional way that this city will shine as a result of all of this. And as I say, when I saw, and maybe I can just give you a little bit of history of why I'm so personally involved in it and committed to it, is because when 2005, when we first took over the control of the council, I was made the portfolio holder for regeneration, and one of the things I had was a city centre partnership. And my first meeting, I found that until I went, that meeting, the city centre partnership was attended by the 3 leaders, and they didn't get much done because of that. And it was never really focused on what it was doing. And one of the reasons when I say they didn't get much done is because actually when I went there weren't any retailers at all. Nothing. Oh, sorry, yes, there was Whitefriars because Peter Scott, it was in his building. So what I set out to do, and if you remember with Dawn Hudd, we set out to try and establish and get the retailers involved. And it took us literally years to get that organised. And it was only as part of that, after a couple of years, that happened to be in Winchester for a completely different reason with the South East England councils, that I saw this, and that was provided the next spur on to get the bid done. But that was it. We realised you can't run a bid by a council. Quite clearly. You can't do it. It's not allowed. And in our case, we were in a position where we were also going to be a major contributor. So I am sorry about that, but that's my view. Councillor Vickery-Jones?